All right, we got a lot to cover, so let's get into it. This is a CJRB Prado Ray Laconico design. I have heard some high praise. This thing's been out for like about a year now. And it just got onto my radar here just a little while ago, so I decided to pick one up because I really liked it. This is the CJRB AR-RPM9 steel on this knife. I really like that steel. It takes an incredible edge. Yeah. That is grippy. Yeah, the pocket clip might need a little bit of tension added to it. Okay. I do like the design on this. All right, first things first. Let's get a little bit of measurements on this thing. It looks like it is, my goodness, about 8.5 overall. Looks like a 3 and 5/8, 3 3/4 cutting edge, somewhere in there. Comparisons: we got the Ontario Rat number 1, Buck 110, and we'll even throw in a PM2. So you can see this is a full-size knife. This is not, the cutting edge is just about the same on that Buck 110. The Rat 1, just a little bit more cutting edge than a Rat 1. And next to the PM2 is a pretty big knife. A little bit more cutting edge than the PM2 also. I do like the grippy G-10 scales on this. However, the crossbar lock is a little bit to be desired here. There's not a whole lot of real estate for my extra large hands, which this knife definitely fits my extra large hands. But there's not a whole lot for your hands to grab onto that crossbar lock there. You know, and that begs the question, especially with something like that, you know, especially with all of this, you know, the packaging in the box and all of this, could you have taken this money, you know, and put it in, you know, to the materials and the design of this knife rather than, I would rather have just a regular old cardboard box and a great knife, because none of this helps me cut anything. All right, rant over. Let's get a weight on this thing. It feels pretty light. It does have some steel liners in there, and they're definitely nested in there. It's 97 grams, 3.4 ounces. So it is a fairly light knife. And it feels good, and it feels well balanced. Right there, right where your finger lands. You know, Ray Laconico designs are typically well designed ergonomically. The G10 is extremely grippy. I don't know, you can see the texture in that, and it feels good in my hand, even with a little bit of twisting motion. You know, if you're really digging into something, it feels pretty good. It doesn't feel like it's going to slip, and as a matter of fact, this does have some good chamfered scales on it, but because of the spacing and how it's positioned, it actually kind of digs in to your hand a little bit and kind of adds to the ergonomics. I feel the pocket clip just a little bit right in here, right in the crease of my hand. It doesn't feel bad though. It doesn't feel like it's poking or hot or anything like that. It feels pretty solid in there. I feel pretty confident with it right here. Now there's nothing to choke up on. I suppose you could get one finger here if you really needed to do some work, but that sharpening choil right there is fairly close, and you might nip your finger if you weren't careful with that. Now, how sharp did this thing come from the factory? Let's find out. Yeah. It's good. I like using the packing peanut rather than the piece of paper because it's such a light, fluffy, airy medium to cut through to really give you a good idea of just how sharp a knife really is. And as a matter of fact, my goodness, you can get these things real super thin if you're dealing with a knife that's got good geometry, is nice and slicey. Let's figure out what angle this is from the factory. Do they have a good standardization at CJRB? How close is it per side? I'm just going to take a guess and say 25 degrees. Yeah, actually 25 degrees is a little bit too steep for this blade, so we'll try it at 23. $23 good? 23 got us up here at the very tip, but just not through the rest of the blade. Okay. All right, go down. Roughly 21 degrees. Roughly 21 degrees on this side. You can see it's not perfect. Now, I don't expect any factory edge to be absolutely perfect, but okay. 21 degrees on that side. What about the other side? Yeah, I don't think CJRB's quality control is that great. Just kind of looking at that, it's looks like out here at the tip they got it, but it's a different angle down the straight part of the blade here. And again, I don't expect any manufacturer to be absolutely perfect with their sharpening. Don't get me wrong, this knife did show up sharp. I mean, cutting the packing peanut is no small feat. That's it's pretty good. I'm not even, I'm barely pushing on that knife. So it definitely came in sharp. But the factory edge does need a little help. As do most knives, I understand. I get it. These aren't, this is a budget piece. This is not a handmade knife. Let's talk about let's talk about this pocket clip for a minute. And there's flush mounted screws there, but the pocket clip itself is not inset into the scale. It is reversible, tip up only. Boy, this thing sure does not have a lot of tension on it, though. It probably needs just a little bit of tension, but probably go in and out of the pocket very easily. As a matter of fact, it does. Here, let's check it real quick. Oh, yeah. I can one-hand that right into my pocket. I do like the crossbar style locks, but the detent is usually just a little weak. And I guess for the style of lock, they kind of have to be. The other thing, though, about this action is the thumb hole. It's just a little bit small, especially for such a large knife. And this is something that I think Ray Laconico design would have addressed. Is that just needs to be just a little bit larger. Well, okay, fair enough. You know, I do have double XL hands, so maybe somebody with slightly smaller hands can get their thumb in there now that I'm thinking about it. Of course, you do have the option to operate it just using the crossbar lock. However, you're going to wear out the Omega springs a little bit faster doing it that way. The action overall is, it's like an 8.3. It's definitely smooth, but I guess I'm dinging it just a little bit for that. Just not having enough access to the opening, the major. I guess I'm dinging it just a few, just because of the lack of access to that opening hole. There's just not. I mean, you can see it's got just a little bit of relief cut there. And there's just enough of a ridge where I can't squeeze my fat finger in there. Now, that might just be a me problem. Okay, fair enough. But still, I don't have issues with other knives of similar design. I do like the fact that this is fully ambidextrous. I can't get to it with my left hand. I can open it just fine with my left hand. Oh, I guess not. I guess I'm not. I don't. Oh, there it is. I was gonna say I don't have enough. I don't have enough grip over here without the pocket clip to get the Spidey flick, but I got it after a try. Oh, difficult to get, but definitely can be done. So left-handed is good. Even feels good in left-handed. Even though my pinky is right on top of that pocket clip. I think even if I were bearing down, and even left-handed with a twisting motion, it'd be okay. If I was really working hard with this knife out. All right, here we go. We'll give this thing. I gave it about 10 minutes or so on some dry ice. And this thing, it is chilled. So how does it perform? Well, in cold, oh, it's a no. Almost. That is a no with the gloves on. How about the access lock? Does that work? Nope, that's froze. So 10 minutes in, negative 109 degree dry device, you know, didn't do this hardware any favors. I mean, it's slow and sluggish now, of course. And that Omega spring is, I'm afraid that thing's gonna snap. But the knife still works, even in an extreme temperature difference. There, it's yeah, it held up okay. I definitely would not recommend this thing if you're going to be working out in the cold, because that did not feel good. And let's see, can I even get this thing to close with a glove on? Let's see, barely. The problem is getting to the crossbar lock. Those finger nibs, I don't know what else to call them, are just a little bit too shallow in the scale. I mean, I can get to them, but I really got to get to them to get it, to get the knife to work. And this thing, it feels okay in hand with the glove on. Like I could definitely work with it. The ergos still work. It's definitely put that thing to work, but boy, it's difficult to get at it. Not many knives. No, don't get me wrong. Not many knives are great with a glove on, but this certainly is not one of them. And now, don't get me wrong. I understand that, you know, 109, negative 109 temperature is not normal, nor would you ever really get to that point. But certainly there are people who work in cold weather and work with gloves on, and to be able to try to actuate that, you did see that the crossbar lock did stick quite a bit in cold weather. Now, whether that's just, you know, frost buildup on the Omega springs in there, or, I mean, I have heard some other complaints of a little bit of lock stick. All right, and now after giving it to about 150 degrees in the oven, that thing's pretty warm. I'm having a much better, easier time working the action on this knife now that it's warmed up. Of course, I think without the glove, my hand would be burning. That thing's still fairly hot. I will say, though, that the G-10 does not feel tacky or melted. So if you left this in a car windshield somewhere, I think it'd be okay. It's not going to get, you know, sticky or tacky on you or melt or anything like that, or anything weird. Nothing texturally going on there. Everything seems to be okay there. But I most definitely could see someone using this just as an EDC blade. Someone who prefers a much larger blade. Well, I should say the blade's not really that large. It's realistically the handle, and enjoys, you know, some good neutral ergonomics. It does fill out my hand. It's not that tall, but it feels good even in my XL hands. It is a 4-finger knife for my extra large hands. So yeah, so for someone who's going to EDC and open, you know, normal packaging, is not going to do any real hard use. You know, cardboard, slice up an apple. The QC, the quality control on this particular knife was good. The action, you know, works fairly well. I did not disassemble this knife at all because, quite frankly, I think a lot of folks don't disassemble their knife and attempt to tune it. I think that's just a knife person kind of activity to do. So I don't like to take knives apart to make them work any better. I want to see exactly how they work from the factory. I want to see exactly how sharp they are. I want to see how accurate their angles are at the factory and what they do to quality control. This knife is not glove approved. It will not work with a winter glove, with a work glove. Maybe with a nitrile or a latex glove, it would be okay, because you could actually get your fingers into the crossbar axis here. I can't actuate it with one finger or with just a thumb, one-sided, without grabbing the other side. So I can do that, so I will give it that. I know nothing's perfect. And the last thing I want to talk about is this lanyard hole and how strange of a choice it is. I think the design is great. I think it's fantastic that it's just that little, you know, it's inset in the knife there. It's got that, but it is nowhere near large enough to accommodate 550 paracord. It's just not large enough. So, okay, that's okay. I guess you can use something smaller to make yourself a lanyard if you so desire. I get that. But it sure is an interesting design choice. If you'd like to purchase this knife right here, I will have it for sale on my site, sharponsite.com. I'll have a link in the description. We'll see you next time.